In this video, I want to introduce you to Edison, which is FL Studio's onboard editor and recording program, as well as discuss some general recording info. To put it simply, Edison is a plugin that transfers data to FL Studio as an effects insert. To use Edison, you can either select it as an insert from the available plugins list, or you can press Ctrl-E with the sampler selected. Now, don't think of Edison as an actual plugin, even though it opens up in the mixer as a plugin. It's independent of what's going on in the mixer for the most part. It is simply a way for you to record and edit instead of working as a channel, and it works as a plugin in the effects slot. Now, a lot of the information we've covered in the SliceX tutorial applies to Edison, as SliceX is sort of a combination of Edison and the Fruity Slicer, so we won't be going over every single parameter and option, but I will name them just so that you can keep track of what's what, and if you have any questions, I would suggest reviewing the SliceX tutorial, as well as reviewing the help file. To start, we have a window that contains our transport controls as well as recording options. The transport controls perform as expected with loop, play, stop, and record. The options next to this are for recording. We can choose to record now, only when input is occurring, on input, which means once input is detected, the recording continues no matter what, on playback, and in new project, which will reset the project settings before beginning. There is also a place to set a time limit in minutes of recording. Now, the way I want you to think about Edison and recording in FL Studio is like this. You insert an instance of Edison on the mixer track you plan to record to. You set the input based on your hardware for that mixer track. Once you record, Edison is what captures the audio. From there, you can save or export the recording or drag and drop it as a new channel. So you can have as many instances of Edison on as many different channels as are available. This is how FL Studio handles multi-track recording. If you have recording hardware, I would consult your manual for information on how to set things up so that your hardware outputs are leading to your computer inputs so that FL Studio will recognize these inputs and you can route things accordingly. So, just like in the SliceX Edit panel, we have options to open and save samples, edit properties, undo, cut, copy and paste, apply effects, swap channels, add regions and markers, slice audio, change views and snap settings, adjust selection and zoom, and then we have shortcuts for some of these functions. Again, we have a jog wheel for scrubbing through our audio. Now, we also have an option for slave playback to host. This will slave the playback to the master transport controls in FL Studio rather than the controls in Edison. This means that when you press play on the master transport control in FL Studio, your project will begin to play back, but Edison will also begin to play back in conjunction. We also have a switch to choose between spectrum and waveform, as well as the click-free editing feature which we saw in the SliceX, and the ability to disable auto-scroll. The last option, mute input, will mute the input of the source from which you are recording. And just like in SliceX, we have the controller envelopes running across the bottom of the window. These behave just like the envelopes in SliceX. Now, something worth mentioning about recording in FL Studio. Edison is entirely RAM-based. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because you can always buy more RAM. It's bad because most computers have a limit of a few gigs of RAM. So in all honesty, Edison is not meant to do hours of recording. It's meant to record and edit smaller segments and songs, but not very long pieces. So when you do decide to record, remember that you are limited by the amount of RAM in your machine. Now, one of the cool features of Edison, just like in SliceX, is the ability to drag and drop your edited sample to a new sampler instance or as an audio clip. This works well because you may have to edit something in Edison, but you want to play it in the current project. Just select the drag and drop icon, left-click, and drag to the channel window. Now, when recording from the FL Studio transport panel, we have three options: automation, score, and audio. To access these options, you can right-click on the record button in the master transport panel, and then select the options that you plan to record. Automation will only record any automation moves you make and insert them as automation clips when you stop recording. The score option will record any notes played while recording. Audio will record external audio to the mixer track or tracks that you have set up to record. This includes mixer tracks that have been armed. To arm a mixer track to record, you need to check the disk icon at the bottom of each mixer track you intend to record to. You will then be asked to name a new file which will be created. You also may want to cover the disk recording options in the mixer menu. We discussed this in the mixer tutorial. We can open this menu by left-clicking the arrow icon on the top left-hand corner of the mixer window and selecting Disk Recording. Again, we already discussed disk recording as it applies to rendering your current tracks, but when recording external audio, the other options here come into play. Auto Unarm will automatically unarm all armed mixer tracks after recording. Auto Create Audio Clip will create and insert an audio clip from the sound that you just created. Latency compensation will compensate for latency introduced into the recording by hardware. Finally, we have the option to record at 32-bit. Keep in mind that if your sound card or hardware cannot support 32-bit, this option will not affect the sound and will only make your files larger. So basically, we've seen that there are two methods for recording external audio. One is to insert an instance of Edison into a mixer track and then record with it straight into memory. The other is to use the disk arm function at the bottom of the mixer track that you want to record to. In either method, you will want to make sure you have selected the correct input setting for your source and your routing for your output if necessary. You also need to keep in mind the different recording options in the recording toolbar, such as wait on input and countdown for recording. The options in Edison need to be checked as well if you were recording into Edison. If you plan to record into Edison along with your song, you may want to select the slave host to playback option so that when you record, you will hear your song playback as well. This option will record the audio output for the mixer track Edison is on, so make sure that you are recording on a track with nothing else on it to avoid other elements from getting mixed into your recording. Any of the options we've discussed here can get your audio into FL Studio, but it's up to you how comfortable you feel with each. Recording into Edison can be beneficial as you can edit your audio right then and there and insert it into your project. The playlist option is also good for multi-track recording. As far as recording automation and score, you can always check the recording filter, again by right-clicking the Master Record button and selecting the different elements you want recorded if you will be multitasking and you want to record different elements of a performance. Although we didn't go into detail about the effects in Edison, you can apply effects to the selected parts of your sample in Edison by using the shortcuts or the Tools menu. This is a great way to save time and space by applying effects such as reverb or delay to the sample rather than wasting CPU by using these effects as inserts in the mixer. You can left-click and drag to select different parts of your audio in the window down in the bottom. You can also zoom in and zoom out on your waveform. So as we've seen, Edison is a very powerful recording and editing tool and is one of the many ways that FL Studio can be your only piece of software. You can write and compose music with the step sequencer and piano roll, insert different instruments as VSTIs in the channel window, you can mix your project with the fully functioned mixer, you can insert digital effects into the mixer to enhance your project, and finally, you can record and edit directly into the program using either the audio clip option or Edison. With all of these tools at your disposal, FL Studio truly is a solution for your every audio production need. Thanks again for checking out this video series, and I'll see you next time.